So welcome back from summer. Did you have a nice summer?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so we're going to start with this piece by Franz Schubert, and it's called Moments Musicaux, and it's on a set of pieces. This is number 3, and so I'm going to start with looking at, instead of just having you go and start playing stuff like that, let me give you some background on the composer, on Schubert, particularly, because that's what we're talking about. So Schubert was born in 1797, and he only lived 31 years. And actually his life overlaps Beethoven, and he did know about him, but I'll talk about that later.
Beethoven knew Schubert.
Beethoven overlapped Schubert. So
I was
Beethoven,
saying which one knew. Beethoven knew Schubert.
they both knew one another, yeah, or knew of. I assume that they met, but they certainly knew of one another. And Schubert definitely knew about Beethoven, but Beethoven knew about Schubert too, even though turns out Schubert was not as popular.
Back then?
Back then, yeah. He only had really a few admirers, and he was not wealthy all his life, and his father was just a teacher, and so he didn't have money to give him, and Schubert had to work. He had to teach himself just to make ends meet, and I don't think he was married either, and had kids. So Schubert had this difficulty in his life. He didn't come from money, and he didn't make money. But so he had to do some other work. But when he was composing, it's said about him that he'd start one song, he'd finish it, and he'd immediately start another. So he was literally constantly composing whenever he wasn't having to work or something like that. He was one diligent guy. And also he had difficult health and some very serious health problems through much of his life. He died at 31. So his music in some ways, in my opinion, is somewhat melancholy a lot.
Yeah.
Though it's hard to say it's that way or not. It's beautiful, really. It's better to say that it's beautiful, but it just seems to me to have a melancholy side to it. Probably it's because I know about Schubert. Okay, so we talked about Beethoven, and Beethoven and Mozart are in the classical era of musical composition in Europe, and those guys it was characterized by pretty strict forms of dance and of sonatas and things like that. Later, after the classical era, was the Romantic era, which was, yes, they did sonatas, but they did a lot of other pieces that were given unusual names, not sonatas, not some kind of a dance or something like that. And that was
character more names that weren't just describing what they were.
Exactly, describing the form of it or the structure of it. Yeah, it was something like a walk in the wild forest or something like that. That's the Romantic era. Schubert was a tweener, and so he's between the classical and the Romantic. So he wrote classical pieces, and then he wrote Romantic pieces. And actually, this thing it's called Moments Musicaux, which means a musical moment. So it is kind of a tweener, isn't it? A musical moment. Well, what does that mean? It's kind of vague. And in some sense, the Romantic era liked that vagueness, so it's sort of more dreamy, So the Romantic era. So he's between the Romantic era, but he wrote sonatas, he wrote symphonies that are pretty much in the classical form. So he was in between. But his Eighth Symphony, I'll talk about that, is just unbelievably fabulous and haunting and beautifully constructed. He was truly a master composer, and I think it was just his poverty and his, he wasn't really, doesn't appear to be extraordinarily, outgoing, if you know what I mean, like Mozart was. So, anyway, Schubert now is considered to be, a master composer. Okay, so let's look at this piece. So, it's called a musical moment, like I said, and it sounds a lot like dance music. Okay, you'll see that when you hear it. And Schubert wrote a lot of dance music, as did Mozart and Bach before him. However, this piece here is the ending of the piece has a structure that's different than the first few measures. Okay, so dance, usually you want to have 8 bars and then 8 bars, and then maybe a new theme, and you have 8 bars in that and 8 bars in that. This follows that exactly, which makes it sound like a dance. So you have this theme here goes to here. This is 8 bars, and then you have another 8 bars with the exact same music. Then you have new music, 8 bars, and then it repeats again, another 8 bars. So it's 16, 16.
And the
in
bass
different themes.
it follows a pattern.
Yeah, the bass follows a pattern too, exactly. Which makes it dance like boom, bump, boom, bump, boom, bump. And then the third section is also that way too, but it's sort of a new theme again, related to these, but new, and it's also 8 and 8. So you got 16, 16, 16. That's section 1, section 2, and section 3. Now we go to section 4, and it comes back to the original theme. Notice that? But suddenly it's very quiet. But then something really strange happens. It makes it not like a dance that you'd bring into a dance hall.
So that would just say super, super quiet.
First of all, super, super quiet. I mean, nobody'd be able to hear it. But look, it goes super, super quiet, and then it goes diminuendo, diminuendo twice after 3 Ps. That means you're at 4 Ps here, and then you're at 5 Ps here. You're like, it's too quiet almost. Now that's a typical romantic thing too. To put something in music that's impossible to do. Or nearly impossible. So anyway, this is the style of the piece, and it's really a typical tweener between classical and romantic moment music. Now this is actually one of 4 or 5, I'd say, of the most famous pieces ever written by Schubert. People just love this piece. Okay, I do. So let's look at actually let me play through the piece so you can see a feel for it. notice I do a certain thing called rubato, which is like you slow down. It's like you slow down and speed up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it means you rob time. You take it and you give it back. Some of it I don't even give back. All right. So that's another romantic era. And if I have time later,
Tempo is almost a little loose.
that's right, a little bit loose. You were able to be looser and be more creative. You know, again, romantic era
They're more experiment.
characteristic. You can experiment, exactly. Yeah, okay, so let's look at the time signature now. So what does that tell us? How many beats per measure, what note gets the beat?
Or 2 beats in a quarter note is beat.
Right, two beats per measure. One, two, ooh, one, two, ooh. Now let's look at the tempo indication. What does that say?
This one?
Yeah.
Allegro, is that
Yeah.
how you say it?
Perfect,
Right.
perfect. Did your teacher teach you what that might mean?
I don't remember.
Allegro means fast, and moderato,
Moderate.
so it's moderately fast. All right. Allegro moderato, I looked it up in the Wikipedia or something like that, and it had us going. I can't remember but it was basically going something like this. Okay, too fast. Okay, just too fast. So either that has changed, or else he was just doing it crazy fast. And I've listened to some people play it, and they don't play it that fast. Again, Vladimir Horowitz, one of my heroes at piano. He doesn't play it that fast. He played about the speed I played it, maybe a little bit faster. So, but what it means is it's fast. You don't want to go slow,
No.
but it's definitely not. It's not super fast either. There's a certain haunting quality to this piece that it just would kind of spoil it, I think, to go too fast. And it would spoil that gentleness at the end too. But anyway, there's freedom there again. The romantic. So now let's look at the loud and softness as required by the composer. Show me spots where it indicates what. Yeah, right. So how does it start out? The very start.
It's quiet.
Quiet. And does it ever change? When does it change? Yeah, not until there. Now, does that mean that we keep it absolutely exactly the same volume all the way through this section?
I would guess not.
No way. Okay. Again,
Loose.
yeah, there's a looseness in romantic, but even in any music, even if it's Bach and Mozart, there needs to be some nuance. It's the nuances that make it. It makes it everything. If you don't have that, then it's just a computer playing. Ooh. So, yeah, those markings are like foundations, but around the foundation you make beauty. Okay.
Like guidelines.
Just like a guideline. Yeah, exactly. Okay, now let's look at the tonal centers. Okay, so the key. Well, let's look at the key signature first. Look at that. How do we determine the key signature?
If I remember, you look at the second flat, or am I getting mixed up?
No, you're right.
Okay. So it would be E flat.
Well, okay. So if you have just a B flat, how do you determine what the? If it just was a B
Oh
flat.
yeah, isn't it the next note down from there?
It's 4 notes down. Yeah. So if it's just a B flat, you're an F. So you go down a fourth. So yes, if you look at the last one, you go down a fourth. What's that?
You go down 4 notes, or you just go down 1?
You go down 4. So what's that last flat on?
That's on
The B flat.
right, this one right space.
Oh yeah, well that's not the last one. The
There.
rightmost one, I should say, not the bottom one. The rightmost one is a what?
D.
Right, D flat. And then if you go down to fourth from D flat, what do you have?
Getting lost, looking at the lines.
Yeah, lines and spaces. So there's the D flat, and then C is one. B flat is, or D flat is one, C is two, B flat is three, and the fourth is A. Yeah, so it's A flat. So this piece is in, you could say it's in A flat, but is it in A flat? Is it in the, okay, is that in A flat? Or is it in the relative minor of A flat? Just ask that question.
Sounds like it's more in the relative minor.
Yeah, that's right. And the relative minor of A flat major is F minor. So this piece is in F minor. Okay, now it's in F minor, but it kind of, it does some other wanderings into other keys. And here it's in F, you can see that it's in F minor all the way through, it ends in F minor. What happens here though when we get to this spot?
Sounded like it was more into a major.
You were in a major, yeah, but which major? What's like the bass note there?
D. No, D.
Okay, this is a treble clef. What's that note?
That's not D.
Okay.
D.
Okay, this is a C, middle C right there.
Yeah, C, B, A.
A, right. So that's in, this thing's in A flat major because we've got a flat in our key signature. So it's in A flat major. Now A flat major is called the relative minor of relative major of F minor. Okay, A flat is the relative major of F minor. So this is a related key to this. It has the same number of flats and sharps and so on. Well, flats in this case. And then it goes in this third section. Suddenly it's doing this. It's a C7. All right. So he starts with this C. You think, well, maybe I'm in C. Well, no, you're not in C. That's just the dominant chord of F. So this of F minor. So this section, section 3, is also in F minor. So it's F minor, A flat major, F minor again. Then it comes back to, what's this? Look at this, compare it with that.
It goes back.
Goes back to F minor, yeah. And but look at here, it's got this double P right at the very beginning. This piece is hardly ever loud, okay? All right,
No,
so there's,
the loudest I guess is like here. And there.
that's right, yeah, 8 and 8. So up till this, it sounds like a dance. If you stopped right there, you know, or maybe had another section, you know, just repeated this again, the piece could be done. But that's not Schubert, all right? And really that's what makes him great. He has this amazing, beautiful section that's not 16 bars, but it's 24 bars. And he adds these little things, and he ends in F what? Does he end in F minor? No. Look at the A there. The A is naturalized. So it's F major.
That sounds a little more upbeat than ending.
It does. But really there's a haunting quality to the he has this, just amazingly gentle, beautiful, and also these cool little notes in here. They're little tiny things. It's like a beautiful cake, and it has just a few little special things on top that make it great. So, you can see why this piece is so popular. Okay, so, all right, you can see I like this piece quite a bit. Okay, so let's get down to what we have to work on, okay? Because I've given you something this is gonna stretch you. So we're gonna try to focus on what the challenging technical parts of it are. Okay, and there are a couple, actually three. The big thing for me is the big left-hand jumps. So, show me.
Here.
Yes, right. Look at these jumps here. It goes from a note pretty low up to a note pretty high. Okay, and it's also little chords. You have to go just like that. I can't do it without sitting down. But yeah, big jumps. Okay, so it's almost like you have to have eyes in your fingers. Now, once you memorize it, you can look. All right, but I encourage you and myself to not just use your eyes, but also use your kind of a distance memory that's in your head. I have it even though I'm 65. And okay, so that's one big thing. So you got to use your eyes and your feel. So we're going to work on that. Another challenge is volume control. And because it gets down to a triple P, supposedly 5 Ps, we can use the soft pedal, but we have to decide where we're going to start using the soft pedal. Okay, and that in many sense it's up to you. There's no indication. Look, he gives like indication for 10% of the piece. The rest of it, 90%, has to be decided by the performer. Okay, which is great, makes it fun. I start using the soft pedal here.
And then you just start pressing lighter.
I just try to play lighter, as I move on. But again, I heard Vladimir Horowitz play it, and he doesn't do a diminuendo and end up at 5 Ps. He just doesn't do it. So I've never heard anybody actually do that.
Or they keep getting quiet.
Yes, like we barely hear it.
It doesn't happen in the room.
All right, so volume controls. Large left-hand jumps, that's challenging. Volume control. There's another thing too. Every one of these 16th note sections is hard. And it's hard for me. And this one is the hardest of all, right here, because you're using sixths. You're in sixths. I have to go. See, so that's a big challenge. And so a key thing in this thing is very supple, left hand and right hand, all the way from the shoulder down to the fingertip. So, and then there's spots for rubato. And again, that's not written in, but rubato is really necessary in this piece, particularly because it's a romantic era. Okay. All right, so I think that covers just about everything. So we're going to try the same way that we did before. We'll start at the end. Okay, so we'll start at the, probably here. Let's start here. So section 4. So I've got section 3, section 2, section 1. So let's start here. That's
Let me start with left hand and right hand when I mean together.
yeah. Let's do that. Separate the hands, and see, for next week, let's see if you can do right hand and left hand separately. Let's just go to here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just 12 bars to right here. Okay, and then let's see how that goes. So start with hand separate, and if you have like this part here is challenging, so you're going to have to slow down. Here, let me sit down. So when this part is easier. Now this part, so this little section right here and this little section right here are you going to have to work on by going slower. Okay, I have to do that. I've been playing for 40, 60 years or whatever. And this too. You know, that's how you get faster. This one's really hard like that. It's messed up. So particularly this one, go slow so you get it right, and then pick it up. Same old thing. Okay. All right, I think we're done.